The following podcast is being brought to you by the Defy Life Podcast Network.
Welcome to Aftergate, powered by the Defy Life Network. Aftergate is a podcast series highlighting Colgate alumni of color in their professional endeavors after Gate. Aftergate is hosted by Alvin Glimpf, aka Al, and Herman Dubois, aka Jerry. We are doing Aftergate because Colgate University has produced innovators who have changed the world every day. Yet many alumni of color in the mainstream Colgate community are unaware of the amazing accomplishments of Colgate alumni of color.
Welcome to another episode of Aftergate. This is Alvin Glimpf, co-host of Aftergate, the podcast, where we are here to highlight, document, showcase some amazing AOC folks who have graduated from Colgate and out doing some cool stuff out in the world. I am joined by my co-host, Sir Jerry, brother, my brother from another mother, 30 years deep. How you doing, homeboy?
All is well, all is well. Blessed to be alive and free, which are things we cannot take for granted in this time in our life. So happy
Facts.
to just be able to, be blessed with great company and be able to sort of share words of wisdom that we know have always been there, but just leverage the technology to give it back and continue to pay it forward.
Facts, right? And I think, continuing to be inspired by the folks we talk to, and I'm enjoying the feedback that we're getting from alums. We're gonna impact students. Like so this is some cool stuff as we continue our legacy of things we were doing way back when we were students.
And real talk, you mentioned some of the feedback that we're hearing little buzz about, from alumni of color, but I was just had an opportunity to be on a virtual panel with the entering OUS class that will start their freshman year in about a week,
Mm,
and the buzz is on campus. You got faculty, as administrators, there's current students of color that are like, who are these after gate cats? What are they about? And so with our inaugural season and sort of building the profile, we are excited about continuing to make those bridges, not
yes.
only between AOC but AOC and students of color and faculty of color, and impacting the entire movement of our peoples on campus.
And want to make sure we get it out to the broader community because we have heard in the past where there are questions about the accomplishments of
Mm,
alums of color, and not
mhm,
that we are
mhm,
trying to get validation from anyone, right? That's not the purpose, but it's
mhm,
about sharing, it's about exposure, it's about communication, and just make sure they are well aware
mhm.
that there are thousands of us who
Yes,
have
yes,
leveraged
yes.
this education, leveraged this diploma, and really taken the experience from that institution to go out and just make the world a better place in our own special
Mm.
way. So,
And knowing you're a data person that you would appreciate, we got some feedback that I don't know the exact number, but something like 10% of the alumni population of Colgate as a whole is alumni of color. That's a real number when you think about 200 years that Colgate has been kicking out graduates. To have 10% of that represent alumni of color, a community of color that spans across the world,
yes,
spans across industries,
yes,
spans across experiences,
yes.
and that's power. That's power. That's powerful. And whether it was the intention or not, we know that we don't leverage it as well as we should. Let's move that needle. Let's change the game a little bit.
And I'm gonna continue to speak it into existence that
Hmm.
of when you talk about thousands of alumni of color around the world, there has to come a day, and I have to see the day where
Yes, yes.
hundreds of us are on campus coming back, whether it's for a reunion, whether it's for homecoming, whether it's for after gate weekend, whatever that is. I would love to have that experience of feeling four, five, 600 alumni of color walking on campus. That's just I'm just throwing it out there. That's not my passion project to hop on, but trust me, if someone else wants to run with it, I will be there in attendance.
Hmm. They ain't ready.
Well, now I want to switch gears and slide in our Colgate question of the week. Right. So here's a Colgate question of the week. I'm curious to know, how did you select your major, and do you have any regrets?
So just because I know that there will be undergrads listening to this who might be faced with the same question right now in their life, the disclaimer is this is exactly how not to pick your major. Okay, so let's just get that out the way right now. Um, so I went into Colgate thinking I was going to do pre-med. I wanted to go into sports medicine, and so I first semester at that time, you put classes, you select the classes that you thought you wanted, and then you get, you got classes that were given to you, and they were just kicked out. And I remember getting my first semester freshman year 4 science classes.
Mm,
That was clearly a glitch in the system because that should never have happened. But my naive, ignorant, first generation college student that I was thought, well, they told me med school would be hard and that all these signs about how they try to weed out students of color, and but you just got to stick through it and you got to study and you got to just raise the bar. Yeah, so that lasted all about 4 weeks, and realized that I was overwhelmed with every one of my science classes, and the dream of doing sports medicine was relinquished. Dropped all 4 classes and got 4 new classes and started a whole new schedule already 4 weeks late into the semester. Um, and so now it was just all right. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna go. So now fast forward, we're at the end of sophomore year, and you have to declare your major. I still didn't know what I was gonna do, but because I had to submit paperwork, I looked at my transcripts and I said, well, I'm gonna figure out which department, which subject matter I have taken the most classes in, and that's going to be my major. It happened to be philosophy. I had Professor Balmuth, who we
mm.
had over the summer of OUS, who
Shout out
I
to
had
Bama.
also taken 2 classes with during my first and second year at Colgate. Really respected him, liked the way he taught, was really intrigued about philosophy and the idea of logic and critical thinking. And because I had some aspirations about potentially law school, everybody was like, oh, you should be a philosophy major. That'll be good. Except the GPA that I had in my philosophy classes wasn't exactly stellar. It was
Mm,
okay, but I had a really good GPA in sociology classes that I had taken, or
mhm,
SOAN, because I had taken some anthropology and some sociology. And so I did the math. So when I had the best GPA, I had taken a couple classes. I was almost halfway through being with all the requirements, became a SOAM major, and that was it. Now, wasn't so bad because sociology was dope. I really got to, especially when I got to the higher level courses, and I found myself really delving deeper into the subject matter and having professors that really, I think, when you were in your 300 and 400 level courses, really challenged you. So I don't regret being a sociology major. I just regret the way I went about it. And if I could do it over again, I definitely may have explored a few other classes in some other areas. And I might just have gotten some better advising about my pre-med aspirations, and maybe just not taking any science classes in my first year, and got acclimated to university life, academics, and then maybe gradually slid into the sciences sophomore and junior and senior year. And maybe, who know, I'd be Dr. Dubois right now, but it's all good. Point is that that was the how not to pick a major at Colgate University.
okay, so I came in to Colgate in typical Alvin fashion, not knowing what I wanted to major, what I wanted to be. Um, and then really did so poorly my first semester freshman year, that if it wasn't for the grades I got during my OUS summer, if I, at the very least, I should have been put on probation, but maybe even had been kicked off. But the
Like
I had
you,
you need to
peace.
go, but the grades that I got during the summer when averaged in
Yeah,
allowed me
helps
to help. But
salvaged.
so I definitely came back after my first semester with definitely more focus, not much more, but with some focus. And I remember January, the J term,
J term.
where, right, that doesn't exist anymore, but it used to be where you would come back for 2, 3 weeks, take one course during January in between first semester and second semester. And that J term, I took a religion class focused on Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, taught
Oh wow.
by Josiah Young.
Josiah Young
And he totally blew my mind in
flipped
terms
the
of
script on you.
what we talked about the black church, talked about black culture. And also at that time, during my first 2 years, there was a lot of major incidents of discrimination that kind of galvanized the campus and really,
Mhm.
as a student of color, pushed me into wanting to learn more about the black
Mhm.
experience. And at the time at Colgate, if you wanted to take classes that taught about the black experience, many of them were in the religion department at the time
And
because,
why is that? There wasn't an African American studies major.
correct. So a lot of black church courses, a lot of African
Under
traditional
theology.
religion
Yep,
under
yep.
theology, right? So to your point, come sophomore year, the end of sophomore year, when it's time to pick a major, I still don't know what I want to do. But when I reviewed my transcript, when I looked at the number of courses that I had taken in religion, it just made sense. Like, well, you might as well just stay in religion and just finish it out. And so while um,
Those were your
I
early years in data research. You didn't even know it. You
correct,
was
I was
you
doing some data analysis. Um, in the OUS conference room trying to figure out like, oh my God, I got to pick a major. And I think while it caused some confusion in my family, because on my mother's side of family, we come from preachers and teachers. So many of my family members heard I was going to be a religion major. They just assumed that I was the preacher of this generation, because every generation in my mother's family, there is a preacher. So
Deacon Al.
they thought, oh my God, my mother was on the phone immediately calling my family members, say, hey, my son's the preacher. He's the one. He's the one. And then I explained to my mother, well, not exactly. This
No.
isn't that type of religion training. I'm more about learning about different religions,
Right.
Islam, Judaism,
Yeah.
African traditional religions, and not necessarily how to be a preacher. And plus, trust me, mom, you do not want me as anybody's preacher. Nonetheless, without further ado, I would like to introduce our guest for this week. Class of 2000, Miss Kiwanda Stansbury. Welcome to Aftergate.
I think this is pretty cool. So thank you for the opportunity for reaching out and for what you're doing to kind of shed the light on the great things that alumni of color are doing. I thought it was pretty cool. So thank you for including me.
Yes, yes, yes. This is a interesting conversation. Looking forward to it. I do not believe we have met before,
I don't
right?
think so. I
You
don't
don't
think
think
so.
so? That's okay. That's all right. We're gonna get to know each other tonight, though. You're gonna learn tonight.
I'm
Looking
almost
for
a little scared, but not too much.
No,
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 no.
no.
Don't be scared. Just we got one rule. Just be you.
All right, I can do
Just
that.
just be you. Because if we find out word on the street that she wasn't really being her, okay, and we're like, wait a minute, who was that person that we spoke
Hmm.
to? Then we're
Hmm.
gonna have to renege and pull back on, the show. But before
Okay.
before we get into the formalities of the script and the question, I'm just curious to know, like, when you heard about Aftergate and when the dialogue started, what you think? What was your first reaction like? Who are these clowns? Or was like, oh wow, what's this? I never got this on an email from Colgate asking me for donations and participate in Aftergate. Like, what came to mind?
At first I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. And for me, I have mixed emotions about Colgate, right, which we can get into later. But I think it is so important to just share the impact and all that's happened. And when I received the invite and read what your purpose here and what your impact is here, I wanted to be a part of it. I thought it was really cool. So I was super excited. I don't think there was a request for money, which is actually the first from, an
Like,
email from
wait,
Colgate. It's
like
usually like,
delete. Oh wait, well, wait a minute. Move that back into
Oh
the
I
my
never
inbox.
get any information without a request for money, but that's Gate right there for you. But no, I thought it was pretty cool. And I haven't met you guys yet. So this was a great opportunity to connect more with the alumni of color. So yeah.
All right. So let's start with first, where where are you from? Like, where were you born? Where are you now? Just give us a sense of that sense. Literally, we are meeting today. Give us a little bit of that feeling.
Yeah. So I was born and raised in Syracuse, New York, which is like 45 miles away from
Mhm.
Hamilton.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I'm
Stomping
like,
ground. Those are stomping grounds.
they
Yep.
are stomping grounds. And after Colgate, I went and moved to the South. So I'm in North Carolina. I've been in North Carolina since 2000. I started in Charlotte, but I'm currently in the Raleigh area, so in the capital.
Okay.
Got it.
Okay. Good
Yeah.
stuff. Good stuff. So, okay, class of
So let
2000s.
me. She was 9 years. We were 9 years removed, right?
Correct.
When so
So
she got
hadn't
there
changed
in
that much.
she
96.
got so she got there in 20 no 96. So
96.
yeah, there was definitely some heads we knew that
So,
was still
Correct.
on campus. Yeah.
I don't know. Rodney Mason, did you know him at all? I'm trying to think who's class of 96, 97, 98. Um,
I did know Ronnie a little bit. Like we didn't interact a lot, but yeah.
okay, okay.
Yep.
Okay, let's
But you
just
would
say
you would know other heads from Syracuse that because there wasn't a lot of Syracuse gay. So Craig Branch, Harry Patterson were guys that were younger than us that graduated a couple of years later, but they would have been either upperclassmen or had just graduated when you
Right.
ended up there.
what
Correct.
high school did you attend at
I was at
Syracuse?
Corcoran High School.
Corcoran,
Corcoran
yep.
at Corcoran.
Yep. Yep.
There were at least one person that I can think of that was in our class that graduated from Corcoran.
Awesome.
Because I know there was a Corcoran. There was, I think, a Nottingham or
There
a
was a
school.
Nottingham. There was a
Okay,
Henniker High
I
School.
remember Henniker. Remember that
Yeah.
school. So kind of remember a few of those because there were several Syracuse folk who
Yeah.
were in our class and the classes behind
Elton wasn't Elton. Elton was
Elton
in
Davis.
Syracuse.
Yep,
Mm-hmm.
yep, yep.
Mm-hmm.
He's a fireman
Okay.
now. Good old E.
Nice.
So okay, so take us back to 96, 95. Take us back to that time in your life. What's the world like? What's school like? Give us a sense of not just globally when I say the world, you can actually drill down to your world, but
Yeah.
curious to set that table, set the context. What's that like?
Yeah. For me, 96, I was young and unaware, I would say. I was in an exploration mode and really eager to just be present wherever I was. But I was really naive, like hella naive back then. And so coming to Colgate was actually, we came through OUS, which was
Mm.
phenomenal because I did not know what to expect. And I just appreciate that program so much because of the start it gave me. And I mean
Mhm.
academically, but also from a network perspective.
Mhm.
And a community perspective. So I just appreciate that so much. But and it really helped me be more aware because I was very unaware. I was very naive and not really understanding where I should go, what I should do. I'm first generation, and so I didn't really know what to expect or how to prepare for school. And truthfully, I didn't do a whole lot of research. So I came to Colgate because they gave me a free ride. And
Yes.
Whoop whoop.
yeah,
Like many of us.
yeah. And so like people say you can go for free, you don't do a lot of research, or I didn't. But I think they still helped me start well. I think being in that OUS program just was game changing. I don't think I would have survived my first year without the the encouragement, the empowerment I got in that summer, the networks I built, the friendships I established, really carried me through the 4 years.
Where did you live freshman year and
Oh,
actually all four
yeah.
years? Give us the residential history.
Resume. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the first 2 years I stayed in HRC,
Okay.
and then the last 2 years in off campus housing.
And the
Yeah.
apartments
Off
like down
campus, as
there.
in yeah, Newell, or like off campus, like
Off campus,
Hamilton,
off campus.
like you had
Yeah.
a landlord.
Okay.
No, 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 no. We didn't have a landlord. So
Still
maybe
university owned.
yeah, it was university owned.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Um, yeah.
What was there anything happening in sort of current events or in politics or even just on the ground in Syracuse that was part of what was shaping your worldview, even though you mentioned being naive, that you felt was sort of relevant to, your identity and who you were as you entered Colgate?
Yeah, I think in Syracuse itself, there was a lot changing, and and not necessarily for the good, right? There was a lot of businesses leaving, and that was heavily impacting the economy. And for me, the one thing I was aware was that I wanted to leave and find something greater than what was there, because the opportunity started to become less and less. And so um, I think that was one of the motivating factors for me. But yeah, I think that and then I think Colgate was just enough away where I got a different exposure, but not too far away, because it was my first time being away from home. So that was also comforting for me as well.
What was
Okay.
life like on campus during those years? Racially, socially, culturally. I know it was cold and gray, but
Oh my
outside
God,
of
yeah.
that,
And,
The
ac-
the
and academically, don't forget that.
yeah, yeah. What was life like?
Yeah, so I think socially, again, I had my own little pod network and that I was able to get from the beginning. And so that helped me get through. I think academically and a little bit socially, for me as a woman of color, it was a little isolating because there wasn't a lot of us. And so in class, I was the only a lot.
Hmm.
So my solitude was back home. My comfort zone was back in the dorm, and I spent a lot of time there because I was uncomfortable in a lot of other places. But there wasn't like the climate that we have today, that wasn't going on. And so there wasn't anything I personally experienced that was really racially or politically motivated or influence, but I mean, there were division, right? There was I don't want to say division, but there was definitely differences racially,
Hmm.
economically. I had like um 3 jobs, I think, on the campus. And
That's it?
so I'm on the low end.
No, no, I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm saying that sarcastically because I had three,
Yeah,
four
yeah,
jobs
yeah.
every semester too.
Right, right, right.
I mean,
So, do you
seriously.
remember where
So,
you worked? Like, just
oh
where?
yeah, I worked in the art center. I worked in the library at night, and I
Okay,
worked uh what was the little cafe in Student Union? I forgot I forgot the name of that one, but I worked there sometimes too.
okay, okay.
Yeah,
Okay. These are work study jobs.
they were work study jobs.
Okay. And any non-work study hustles that were just revenue generating opportunities?
Not while I was at school. Like
Okay.
it was either that or books. I didn't do too much else.
Okay.
Gotcha. And so,
Yeah.
any extracurricular activities, any groups, orgs that you might have participated in, or just kind of stand out as were impactful?
Yeah. So interestingly enough, while I was there, I majored in philosophy because I loved the subject, not because I
Mm,
wanted to be a lawyer like most of my other classmates.
mm,
But again, philosophy is a course that evaluates not only your thinking but your ability to articulate, right? So you had to talk, you had to speak up, you had to debate. Um, and again, a lot of times I was the only in those classes, and
mhm,
so a lot of times my classmates, intentionally or not, would take my comments to be the representative of all Black people or all women or all women of color. And I find myself trying to defend that a lot, in a way that I was really uncomfortable with for quite a bit of time. And eventually it made me like fall back and not share and not speak up and
Mm.
not contribute to the conversation. And so I find myself silencing myself, quite honestly, because I wasn't comfortable,
Mm.
um, with them assuming or labeling or putting me in this group, in this category based on my experience. And so that did really affect me and affect kind of my sense of belonging at Colgate.
Mm.
Um,
Mm.
and so at first I tried to find a community, I find a safe space to express ideals. And I started going to the women's center on campus, and there were some amazing women there who really supported, really helped me think through some things, but there was still something missing. And so then I started having a group, or getting a group of the women of color that were in my dorm or that I just knew, to come together and just talk and, swap stories and, build some camaraderie and just support each other. And then after that, I figured, you know what, I want to do more. I want for us to have a bigger spot on this campus. And so I decided to go in front of student government and make our group official. And so I started Sisters of the Roundtable for that reason. And I remember like filling out the paperwork as you prepare to present your student group, and trying to think through with my half a philosophy degree at the time. Try to think through, like, what questions would they have? What would be their what would be one reason they wouldn't want to support this? And I had my questions and answers prepared, but the one question I was not prepared for, which they didn't ask anything I prepped for, but the one thing they did ask was, I wanted to create this group, and they were worried about if they would be included as well. And I remember sitting there like thinking, like, dude, you have everything. You have this whole campus. Why would you want this too?
And
But
this is why I'm creating the group.
right, right. Like, I have nothing. You want this too? But then I also remember. So I of course I said, of course, yeah, you'll be invited to everything, and this is open for all. It is focused on, women of color and our experience, but it's not exclusive to us. We would be open to inviting everyone. Um, but I remember thinking, man, no one wants to feel the way I'm feeling, right? And I felt excluded. I felt like I didn't have a place. I felt like I wasn't invited to the table. And here I am creating my own table, and now they're worried about that kind of to table. And
Wow.
there the Student Government Association, SGA, was mostly white men. One friendly face, Tommy, was on there, and but that was it, right? And so it was really uncomfortable to present that and push for something that was important. But that was my big walk away. So for me, creating Sisters of the Round Table was, honestly, it was survival. I needed to create a space. I needed to have something that connected to who I was, that resonated with who I was and all the other women there. And I did invite them to every event, but they didn't come. Um,
Oh.
but that's okay, because it was for us anyway. Um,
I love
Uh-huh,
it.
uh-huh, uh-huh.
but for me, it really was survival for me. It was to be able to have that space so that I could face the rest, right? And I was also a part of the African American Student Alliance, um, and the Conocione Society.
Mm.
Okay. Double ASA.
Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's what's up. Founded an organization. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is an
That's
awesome
big. That's big.
segue because one of what we love to ask our guests is to reflect on when you look at the 4 years there, what do you classify as some of your accomplishments, and whether it be
Hmm.
personal, whether it be academic, whether it be, I just graduated, though, that was an account, like, what does that, I mean, clearly setting up an organization is absolutely one of the muscles that I would check the box. But if you had to, like,
Yeah.
give a quick little highlight sizzle reel of your 4 years, what do you classify as, sort of proudful
Yeah.
moments of accomplishments?
I it's interesting. I probably wouldn't have classified SORT as an accomplishment up until maybe about, I'd say, 5 or 6 years ago, when
Did you say sort?
SORT, Sisters of the Round
Sisters
Table.
of the
I guess
Round
that's
Table.
the I say that's an acronym. Okay, sort. Okay, okay. All right.
I did not think of it as an accomplishment. I really thought of it as something I created to survive, and
Hmm.
it was beneficial for the other women in my circle. Um, but after graduating, um, friends of mine reached out to me and said, "Do you know SORT is still going? And
Mm,
here's who's leading it now." And I was like, "Wow."
mm,
And so then I started to kind of stay plugged in and follow it. And there was an article about life on campus that came out, and it had a picture of, I think it must have been like a student group fair, where all the student groups were coming out to promote their particular group, and they had a Sisters of the Roundtable table and three beautiful women of color sitting there. And I just thought, wow, for me, that was just the biggest thing. I truly created it for selfish reasons, so I could make it through those 4 years. But just to see that it still has an impact, and I talk to women of color who are there or who have graduated, and they just share stories around how that has also been a resource for them. That now I do own that as an accomplishment. But for me, it was like I survived. I lasted 4 years. I got through it. I made some amazing connections, people who I consider family now, that I have grown up with, matured with along the years, and being able to have that and this degree that has really helped me in the roles I'm in today, and those experiences that have helped me in the role I am today are really things I'm very proud of.
A
Excellent.
founder, pioneer in the building. We need sound effects.
Yeah, yeah. We do.
What would that be, like bomb drop sound
Like
effect?
Yeah,
something like
yeah,
"Bam!"
yeah,
Ring a bell, something. But
There you
we'll
go. There you
we'll
go.
You know
get
how
you out.
DJs have those sound effects with like
Yes,
missiles is
yes.
going off? We got to work on
We
that. We
need
got
I'm
to
we
work
feeling
need
that.
on
I'm
something.
feeling
Okay,
that.
we'll
Yeah.
we'll work on that. We'll work on that. Getting my production team on that right now.
that. Yeah. Production team means Google. Google
Yeah,
how
pretty much.
sound effects for podcasts.
There you go.
Is there
There you go.
is there an app? And
We will
another.
make that happen.
Oh,
So talk about then what do you miss, right? So it's been
Mhm.
20 years since you left. What are some of the things when you look at that experience that
Yeah.
you just kind of miss?
Um, I miss the world is so big now, right?
mm,
And sometimes the grandness of it all just feels overwhelming, and like the small little town of Hamilton where Colgate was just
Mhm.
like felt, a little safe and comforting at times. And I think it was because of the communities that we built, and some of that was because we had a small community, and so we all kind of stuck together. Um, so I missed that a little bit, and honestly, when I return to campus, I don't feel it anymore. Um, and I haven't been back a lot, but I go back looking for that sense of community, and I miss it some. But I think that's one of the things I miss. I think there was amazing faculty and staff that just I did not realize it or appreciate it then, but they were there for me, right? They were invested in my success as well, and having that support was really great. And so I missed that a little bit because it is doggy dog in corporate America. But
mhm.
uh, yeah, I think that's what I miss. I think sometimes, the sleepy town of Hamilton, I was absolutely bored out of my mind when I was there, but I miss it a little bit now. That life is crazy.
Life is crazy. So
Yeah,
I got a couple of follow-up questions.
sure.
One, why don't you go back now? You said you
Yeah.
don't go back as much. Just curious to probe a little bit there. Why don't you go back?
I think most of it is geography,
Okay.
right? Like not traveling back to New York, not being there. So in the couple times I've come, I've tried to make a big deal of it, right? Go see family in New York and stop at Colgate along the way. But then some of it is when I've gone back, I don't feel as connected to the campus. And I'm not surprised about that because it wasn't the campus that connected me, it's the people, right? It was the people that I got to know and love and care about, and grow with and mature with and experience crazy things with. I think that's what I have a connection to. So I am a little disconnected from the campus. I am a little disconnected from what's going on now. I'm trying to get past it because I think there's still an opportunity to connect to people that are there now, to things that are going on now. So I'm trying to get connected or dive in a little bit more than I have in the past. But it really is, I missed when I went there, I was missing something. And I think it was the connection that I had with the people that I spent time with there.
Hopefully, this experience on Aftergate might be part of that reconnection journey, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
it's already started. It's already started
There you go.
because they're gonna have people listening. S.O.R.T leadership is gonna be listening, and you're gonna
Yeah.
have other sisters who were members since then
Mm.
are gonna be listening, and it's just going. It might be a S.O.R.T reunion in the near
All
future.
right.
You know.
I'm down with that.
Okay.
Hmm. Part of that
My
4 or 500 that's gonna come back on campus.
You
Hey.
with me? You with
Mhm,
me? Sort will have its
Yeah.
own tent, right?
There you
right.
go. There you go.
My second question was, so since you came in about 5 years after us, mid 90s, part of
Mhm.
what was happening at that time was technology was shifting, right?
Oh yeah.
So while we were there, we came in using typewriters, left using computers,
Mhm.
came in not familiar with the internet, came in maybe it had an email address when we left Colgate, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
there were things that were shifting while we were on campus. So I'm curious to know from 5 years later, from a technology perspective, were there cell phones? Like, just curious, what was it like on campus from that perspective?
So it's interesting. There were not cell phones, and I think that happened right after, or it was happening right when we were graduating, right?
Okay.
And then of course, 1999, the whole Y2K thing. Um,
Mm.
but I don't remember us on campus freaking out about that too much. Again, I don't know if that was the Colgate bubble
I was gonna say
or
Hamilton was already in the boondocks,
I
so it
know,
was
right?
like
Like it was
they
like,
would have
what's the difference?
survived the world crashing.
Regardless.
But we did have the computers, right? So that was there for us.
Okay.
CD-ROM, it was CD-ROMs and floppy disks for
Floppy
us. There were,
disks,
there were
yeah.
no USBs. Um,
Okay.
and there were no cell phones. So it was literally landlines. And you had to wait till you got to your destination to call.
Hmm.
So that was different. Did we have two-way pagers then? I don't think we had those yet either. I don't
You had the
remember two-way
standard
pagers.
pager, there's the standard
All right. Pull
BBB
over. Let me
phone
make
number.
this call.
There you go.
Right, right. Okay, okay.
Gotcha. 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 Thank you.
Yeah.
So what I would like to do now is take a break, little pause for our sponsors, give them some
Hmm.
shine, and then we will come back and wrap up this conversation.
Sounds good.
So, this episode is sponsored by Hope Murals. Hope Murals is a nonprofit that provides adolescent youth with an interactive experience of creative expression via an urban arts platform that stimulates both mental and physical development. Please visit their website at www.hopemurals.org to learn more and find ways you can support the work they do. Welcome back. Welcome back. It's good to be here. Finish up this conversation. This has been awesome. I definitely want to thank our sponsor, Hope Murals. Love what you are doing with our adolescent youth and the urban arts. Keep stimulating them mentally and physically. Shout out to Hope Murals. If you are interested in being a sponsor, please just shoot us an email at aftergatepodcast@gmail.com. If you want to be a sponsor, we will definitely take care of you and show you some love. Uh, Before we dive in, let me get this in. Just want to make sure we shout out our dope network. That would be the defylifepods.com. Want to make sure they show them some love. And you can find this podcast and other amazing podcasts on that hub. And you can also check us out on the different streaming services like Spotify and Spreaker. Make sure you show us love and listen to us on there, and also let some of your network know about Aftergate. You can find written content at godefylife.com. And if you are interested in branded apparel, you can check out the branded apparel at defylifegear.com. And just a secret between the three of us and the few listeners that might be listening, Aftergate is going down and getting some merch, y'all. We are
Hmm.
getting some merchandise. So stay tuned for the Aftergate gear that will be available. So we tend to, at this point, now dive into a question of current events. So I'm going to pass the mic to Jerry and let him share the question with you, but looking forward to kind of hearing your response.
So we're here with Sister Stansbury, and we're curious to know that what your take is on the sort of controversial subject matter of mandatory vaccinations for the COVID-19, sort of pandemic that we've all lived through this past year. And now, with this effort to return to some degree of normalcy, there are dialogues around the country around mandates from federal employees that trickle down all the way to our local counties, where employees will be required, even as far as students potentially being required. So, interested in knowing your thoughts and take professionally and personally on where you stand on the subject matter.
Yeah, thanks for the question. I mean, I think, man, this is heating up, right? As our numbers rise, this focus is absolutely heating up. And I think from a personal perspective, I would say I can see all sides. Maybe this is a philosophy degree speaking up, right? But
Okay,
I
okay.
I can see all sides. I can see, I think one, this whole pandemic, this virus is still unknown, right? There's still a
Mm,
lot we just do not know. And that is scary. And that and so a lot of people view, this is an individual choice and I should be able to make this individual choice, right? But then I think the other side is that this whole thing is a matter of just global, I was going to say national, but global health and safety. Um, and we were actually having a conversation on this earlier today at work. And one person said, when your individual choice impacts or influences my health, I have an issue. And I remember that, and I looked at that comment, and I honestly think it's a little similar to some of the work I do from a diversity and inclusion standpoint, right? When people talk about their beliefs, my beliefs is my beliefs, and I should be able to believe what I want to believe until it causes harm for someone else, and then it becomes
mm,
an issue. And so I can kind of understand and empathize with the different sides of this, but I feel like we are in a place where we have got to do something that this is something we have not dealt with before. So part of me feels like we have got to do something about it that we have never done before.
Mm.
And part of me also feels like if I could sacrifice wearing a mask for the health of, my neighbor, my brother, my sister, my friend, then can I do that? Right.
mm,
So I follow it because I think that it probably will affect me in some way, shape, or form, whether my kids at school or we talk about it as we try to think about if we're going to return to work at my company. So I think it will come on my doorstep faster than I even realize it. But I haven't taken a firm stand. I like, double dutch between both sides because I can
mm,
understand both sides.
That's what's up.
mm.
That's what's up.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay.
So you mentioned that you left Colgate, moved to North Carolina.
Yes.
Just mentioned that you mentioned a company, right? So I'm assuming you working somewhere.
She got a job.
She
She
I
got
got a
a
got bills to
job.
pay. I
job.
got
She
bills to
is
pay.
employed. So for us who are listening, walk us through your journey. Walk us through who you've been since you graduated and how did you get to where you are now?
Oh, that's a really good question. You know, when I was in my senior year, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I mentioned earlier that I took philosophy because I just love the subject, not because I wanted to be a lawyer, um, which most of the kids in my class wanted to be. But when I got to the end of junior, I was like, okay, crap, what do I want to do? Because it's time to decide. And man, I explored everything. But I usually say that the HR field, which is what I'm in now, chose me. And I
Mm,
think that is because of my experiences at Colgate. And
Mm,
I didn't know that then, but as I reflect now, I think it's because of the experiences I had both in and out of the classroom, um, and how I wanted to show up as someone who created the right experiences or the best experiences for the people that were around me.
mm,
And I just chose to do that in the professional world. So I started in banking, which is why I came to North Carolina,
mhm,
spent a couple years in banking, then moved to healthcare and then retail. And now I'm in the pharmaceutical industry. And I've been in HR in all those companies. And I'll tell you, people across all those companies, they have the same kind of needs, they have the same kind of fears, they want the same kind of opportunities. There's the same challenges
mm,
and across industries. And so how I've grown through those experiences is by putting myself in uncomfortable situations, because Lord knows I've seen those at Colgate, right? And one thing it did teach me is how to be comfortable in the uncomfortable, how to be comfortable being the only, right? And I was that in HR. You know, a lot of times I was the only in the room, and I was younger than my white male counterparts in the room, and was in positions where I was supposed to influence. And so, um, you know, Colgate taught me how to do that and be confident in that. And so I think it also taught me how to make spaces where there weren't spaces, aka Sisters of Roundtable, right? And so I've been able to do that in my career, and be able to open doors where there weren't doors open, and then where the doors closed in my face, be able to walk around and find the other door, right? And so, um, by always being open and taking advantage of opportunities, you know, taking the initiative to create my own, not taking no for an answer, taking no as not right now, or you don't really mean that, so let me come back and help you figure out that, yeah, how to get to that yes.
All right.
um you know, I've been able to really grow in my career, and I'm super excited about it. And I, because I was in HR, I dealt with a lot of people, and kind of organically moved into kind of the diversity and inclusion space, which I am in. And I tell people now, you know, Sisters of the Roundtable was my first diversity and inclusion effort. I didn't know it, but it really was, right? And I take that, the fear of my 19-year-old self, and the drive of my 19-year-old self, and I show up and create those same spaces for people in organizations today. So I in my current role, I work for Pharmavite, which is the makers of nature made vitamins. People are most familiar with that. Um, and they're a company that wants to do big things, and they know that big things happen with good people, or the right people. And so I lead our talent acquisition and diversity efforts, which means I get an opportunity to bring in diverse talent and help them grow in organizations, and help organizations do right by them, which is my passion spot, right? So, but I've got here through a lot of no's and trials and tribulations, and sabotage and perseverance, support, a little bit of what do they call it? Imposter syndrome, right? All of that is a part of my journey, the good, bad, the ugly. I embrace it all. And it's helped me be who I am today.
Dope. Wow. I was impressed. I was impressed. From Syracuse to North Carolina, that's
Yeah.
good little run right there.
Oh yeah.
Um, oh yeah. Oh yeah. Do you still have fam back in Syracuse, or is
I
everybody
have a
migrated?
few.
A
Yeah,
few.
most of them migrated south. Like they came to visit and was like, oh, this is nice. And then some of them went further south. But
Yeah.
there's a
Okay.
few that's still braving the weather up there.
Well, if you ever on your own time with family, friends, what have you, go further south and hit Georgia, gotta see
Oh,
Al, and I'm in Miami, so you're welcome
oh,
to
even
always
further south.
I'm way
Yes.
south. I am as pretty south as you can get before you hit
Yeah.
the ocean. But you mentioned you referenced how S.O.R.T was your first, you know, unknown sort of venture into DEI. Um, Keeping that in context, if you had to look back now and or counseling your 18-year-old self coming out of Syracuse High School, going into Colgate, what would you, what would that advice be
Mm.
in anticipating the Colgate experience? And then what would your
Mhm.
advice be to the 21-year-old now graduating Colgate, going into the world? Because you talked about not really being sure what you wanted to do. And I got a funny story after off record about how I started off as a philosophy major. I'll tell you about that. But
Oh, good.
what would that advice be, you know, to sort of yourself or to the 21-year-old coming out of Colgate with some of those same scenarios?
Yeah, I would say to my 18-year-old self, like, be present, right? Just be present in whatever you do. Um, and and know that you deserve to be wherever you are, right?
Mm,
And I would say to my 21-year-old self, Go get them, right? You are fearless. You are
Mhm.
willing to take risks. I moved out of North Carolina not knowing a soul, right?
Mm, mm,
Um, and my parents were super nervous. But I would say continue to be fearless. The other thing I would say, now that I think about this question again, when I was 21, I was trying to change the world.
mhm.
And I wanted to change it. I graduated in 2000. I wanted it to be changed by 2001.
I want it
Look,
now.
I
I
want it
hereby
now.
declare Sisters of the Round Table has arrived. It is
Watch
time to
out
change.
and step aside, right? Um, but and because I had big aspirations, like I got disappointed quickly.
Mm,
But I think what I would tell my 21-year-old self is the big wins are nice, but the small wins are equally important. And I think
mhm,
collectively they add up to the change that you
Mhm.
really want to see anyway. So celebrate the small wins, go for those as well. And they'll get you to the bigger ones.
mm,
Yeah,
mm.
that's what I would tell
Preach.
her.
Oh yeah. That needs to be like on a plaque somewhere. You know what I'm saying? Like
I'm telling you, I need to remind
motivate.
myself today sometimes too.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's awesome. So we got a Colgate question that
Okay.
we throw at our guest. So you mentioned you're a philosophy major. I'm curious to know, one, how did you become a philosophy major? And two, do you have any regrets about the major you selected?
Oh, and you told me to be myself, right? Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Come on now.
I don't want you to fact check me. Okay, so I will say that when I came to Colgate, and I did tell your listeners earlier that I did not do my research. I was going to be a doctor. I was going to be a
check
pediatrician
check that box too. Go ahead.
until I took organic chemistry.
Nope.
And
Mm.
then I was like, do I really want to be a doctor? And it was challenging and I
Mhm.
bust my behind. But I happen to have been taking philosophy as well and found that I didn't just do well in that subject. It really resonated with me and spoke to things that I was passionate about. And so it philosophy just kind of chose me. And I just said, you know what? If I'm gonna be here, I need to do something that I enjoy, that I find great value in, and that I think could really grow me. And I just felt like every time I wrote a paper, every time I was in a conversation, I came out of that different. Um, and so I enjoyed it. And so I would say the major chose me, and I would absolutely say I do not regret it. It is
Okay.
the best thing. I use my philosophy degree every day. I use it when I negotiate with the C-suite. I use it when I
Mhm.
influence leaders to do the right thing. I use it um, when I'm negotiating my offer,
Hmm. Yep.
or I'm trying to get them to see the value in me that they need to see. But and it helps me in my HR career to understand all sides, so that I can really be that partner, that confidant, that liaison that really in this profession is so important. So I would not trade it. I would not go back and change anything. I
I
probably
feel
wouldn't
this is.
take organic chemistry though. I would just
I,
skip that part.
I feel this is like a game show where like, okay, we have a bonus round now, and only because you harped on the idea of using your philosophy knowledge and degree throughout your career, and particularly now,
Yeah.
and you serve in a HR DEI role. And so, interestingly enough, I'm curious if you've been in tune with what Colgate is doing around DEI, because they're looking to hire a new officer, and
Yeah.
obviously it's subject matter that is kind of buzzing all over the country. But as an alum, as an alumni of color, as a woman who talked about creating a space where she could have her DEI, survival kit on deck. um, what's I'm curious as what's your take on your recommendations for what you would throw at Colgate to really be truly in tune with the DEI movement across the country.
No, thank you for that question. I was involved in like reviewing a lot of the pre-draft of the plan, and
Oh, really? Okay.
yeah, but
Okay.
I mean I didn't give a lot of input, let me just say that. But I would say this. I think that the way they are going about it is good. I think
Okay.
that they are looking at it um, from a systemic change,
Mm,
which is what's needed, right? And it, for us, yes, the numbers matter, but it's not only about the numbers, it's about what the experience is and how we are really
Talk about it.
creating equity um, in this space.
Mm,
So I think they are thinking about this the right way. I think they are. I know it's taking a little bit of time to find that person, but you need to find the right person to lead
mhm,
this work if you want to really accomplish what you set out to accomplish. So kudos to them for making sure they find the right person. And I say that I say this work is long term. It is more of a marathon than a sprint. It's a
mm,
journey without a destination. And I think that
mm,
if they can stay the course, they can actually activate real change. I think the one thing I would um, share that I think will absolutely help them achieve what they're trying to achieve is just what I think they've already started doing, engaging, right? Engaging
mhm,
alumni, engaging current students, but also engaging, you know, the folks who don't necessarily think this is their journey to be on,
mm.
right?
mm,
Because it absolutely is, and they have
Great point.
in
Great
some
point.
way, shape, or form created the space that we're trying to change, and so they
mhm,
should absolutely be engaged in that change as well.
Great point, because when you think of diversity, equity, and inclusion, for most folks, it immediately triggers an idea that it's for people of color,
Hmm.
and it's literally for
Yeah,
everyone, including the folks who were part of the reason why you needed to have diversity, equity, and inclusion to begin with.
absolutely. Yeah,
So yeah, absolutely great point. Great point.
yeah.
So, I think that's good to hear the progress. I mean, I think progress isn't always part of Colgate's narratives, particularly
Hmm.
in the alumni of color circles. I think so many of us
Yeah.
remember what the experience was like and just
Hmm.
assume it is still like that. And
Yeah,
so I think it is good to hear that there's a journey that this institution is on, and not that they've arrived. And it's definitely, we have ways to go, but it's
absolutely.
good to hear people who know,
Mm,
not just because of exposure to the information, but also know from, this is my expertise, this is what I do, who could give some feedback that they're heading in the right direction. And to your point, hopefully they stay the course so that we can see the type of change and then be more inclusive. Because I wholeheartedly agree with both of y'all that this change can't just happen amongst us
Right.
for it to really be effective, because they have to change. So awesome, awesome, awesome. So here is a opportunity. As we wrap up this show, we also like to give our guests an opportunity to promote whatever they would like to promote, and also share a way in which our guests, if you would like to reach out to contact you, because this is a way to showcase and highlight you, but it's also, we're doing this to build bridges so that we can all
mm.
be able to network and access each other in ways that could help. So the floor is yours.
Oh, awesome. Well, again, thank you, fellas, for the opportunity, for the amazing conversation, and just most importantly, for creating the space. I think this is just amazing. I don't have anything big to promote. I think what I will promote is just continued dialogue. I think dialogue that does what you're doing here at Aftergate, which is uplift our community, because we are doing some amazing things.
Mhm.
And so I just appreciate, spaces like this that give us an opportunity to share that. I think if folks want to get in touch with me, they can absolutely hit me up on LinkedIn. I usually am pretty active on that. And yeah, I think that's probably the best way. And if they want to reach out to you, and I can give them some more direct contact information, I can do that as well. But thank you for the opportunity and the conversation. This has been amazing.
I'm gonna throw one more out there to you.
Yeah.
As the founding mother of
Yeah.
sorts, any parting words you would want to share
Mm,
to your current membership that because I'm gonna find out who they are. Like as soon as we hang up the phone, I'm gonna be like, yo, who's running SORT on campus now? We gotta connect y'all with. Y'all know who this sister is, Stansbury?
Right.
You know where she
'Cause
live?
we
We
do
going
have
to
some amazing interns who are students
yeah.
on campus right
Right
now.
now, right
So
now we have a sister who's the
Oh yeah, I got
president
connections.
we are
of the
connected.
yeah. So yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so founding mother feels real heavy, but
Mm,
what I would say to the leaders of SOAR and all the phenomenal women that have contributed to that organization is that is just the beginning of your journey, right? And I think that there may be times where the world is not ready for you yet, but that should not stop. That should not stop your focus, your passion, your impact. And I think that if I could lead them with anything, is that I'll quote one of my favorite authors, which is Minda Harts, which means that she says that you deserve to be at every table, but not every table deserves you.
mm,
And so find the spaces that can tap into your worth, find the spaces that deserve the talents you bring, and be you and be fierce and do what you got to do.
there it
Oh
is.
man.
Just
On
drop
that
the mic.
note, drop that mic.
You guys
Oh,
are funny.
we will definitely wrap it up there. But I just want to, before we wrap it up the show, I do want to thank you for,
Mhm,
as
mhm,
someone who um, values the experience of all students who come through Colgate. So, on behalf of me and my co-host, I want to thank you for creating SORT
mhm,
because you
mhm.
have, without a doubt, in creating that space and creating an opportunity, impacted the experience of folk who, um, without that, who knows what their experience would have been like. So,
Yeah.
in a very positive, powerful, impactful way, founding mother.
Yes, yeah, and in
Thank
real
you,
talk,
thank you,
and
thank you.
the the
Thank
the
you.
courage that came with that, the courage was real. And as we can relate to so much of our experiences coming out of necessity, just like this podcast. Nobody
Hmm.
else was doing it, so we said, let's do it. Um, and mad props to you for that because and it's still running. We had a chance
Hmm.
to hear about a conversation about one of the founding brothers who started the AOC, and he says, I didn't know that 35 years later it would
Yeah.
become what it's
Hmm.
become. And so uh, that just echoed when I heard you mention that you founded that, and so you had no idea it was selfish, but it came from a place of good intention. And now,
Hmm.
my sister, that is your legacy.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. I really do.
Well, on that note, thank you. Thank you for being a guest. Thank you to our listeners, because this has been another episode of Aftergate. And Aftergate is powered by the Defy Life Network. And so we just want to make sure you check us out on all of your favorite platforms, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio. Thank you to our amazing interns, and y'all
Yeah,
just got another task.
yeah, yeah.
Y'all get to sort that out. So appreciate y'all. But shout out to Izzy, Kathy, Sophia. Y'all doing an amazing job. Keep it up. This has definitely been y'all been part of the highlight of the summer. So thank y'all. And just check out some of the many episodes we got to follow with more amazing alumni. Peace, family.
Amen. Thank you.
Awesome.
Shh. You hear that? Listen closer. That, my friend, is the deafening sound of focus. It drowns out all the useless noise that can clutter the moment. Naysayers don't exist. Haters? Smaters? The peanut gallery? Who's that? When you in your zone, all that noise and all that buzz is just elevator music. So, enjoy your journey, focus on your goal, and bask in the quiet roar that is progress. Because when it's your time to shoot that shot, spit that verse, or close that deal, the only voice that matters is yours. Defy life.